Let's firstly review the dynamics of the main currency pairs during the last week. And from this chart, probably the picture is not very clear, but you can see that the greenback managed to strengthen versus all currencies except Japanese yen. Versus Japanese yen, there was a slight decline of the American currency. Initially, the past week was going to be probably a rather moderate week for the US dollar, but then we got more positive than expected inflation figures from America on Friday. And after that, the bulls, US dollar bulls, managed to make sizable gains, especially if we look at British pound to US dollar currency pair. Here is it, and euro dollar, as well as gold declined versus the US dollar. And of course, taking into account the fact that the Federal Reserve's meeting will take place this week, of course, US dollar is going to be one of the main drivers on Forex and will surely be in the center of the market's attention. Some positioning figures from CFTC. Here we can see that the overall US dollar bullish position has declined a bit, but the dynamics didn't fall into bullish or bearish trend. It is more like the sideways trend we see here in the aggregate USD position. There are some interesting changes in the market sentiment for other currencies. For example, we can see that the bias for the euro remains bearish. However, this negative bias is decreasing, and there was a rather sizable decrease in this net bearish euro position. And if we look at this weekly chart, weekly change, not in the US dollar, from the US dollar value point of view, but from the number of contracts point of view, we will see that the decline in the euro short positions was the biggest since the beginning of January, and this is a rather sizable change for the Forex market. It surely reflects the results of the European Central Bank's meeting, which took place earlier in September. Back then, I can remind you that the ECB kind of disappointed the market by not being as aggressive in its monetary stimulus as some analysts thought. And as a result, we saw that traders, large speculators, closed some of the bearish bets on the single currency. Of course, positioning is still rather heavy, and we can we will probably see more of short covering for the euro. Bearish bias for the British pound also declined a bit. And here also the general situation is the same as with the euro. If British pound reverses from declining to rising, then there is still a chance that we'll see more of short covering of these bearish positions. And also pay attention to Japanese yen. It is, on the contrary, in net bullish position. So it means that the total number of long position on Japanese yen exceeds the number of short positions on Japanese yen. This shows that this net long positions are increasing, and the picture is rather bullish. However, we must ask ourselves what is the limit of this bullish position? How much further can Japanese yen increase? So it is not the beginning probably of some trend. It is somewhere past the middle of the bullish trend. So some insight in how the market is feeling about the yen is also derived from this information. If we look at the US dollar index chart, which tracks the dynamics of the American currency versus the 6 currencies which are of countries representing America's main trading partners, we can see that here the dynamics is also consolidative. We can see this big green bullish candle on Friday, then the US dollar gained on their better than expected US inflation figures. And more or less, dollar index is consolidating around 95.50 mark. And the currency will likely move very little ahead of the Federal Reserve's meeting on Wednesday. Here we can also see the dynamics of oil. It is the daily chart of Brent oil, and Brent is our main commodity as well as WTI. Crude oil is our main commodity, and in Brent we see that the prices move between $50 per barrel. This is a kind of upside limit for the prices, and $45 represents support level. I expect that we'll see more volatility in oil prices ahead of the next week meeting of the world's largest oil producers. There will be probably more rumors, more speculation about the freeze in production, which may be negotiated by these large producers. So be aware of short-term swings in oil price. These short-term swings may be rather big. And despite the fact that the overall trend should soon reverse to the downside, there are expectations of more productions in nations like Nigeria and Kazakhstan. There may be some short-term bullish reaction on the expectations of the Energy Forum next week, but I doubt that any constructive decisions will be made at this upcoming event. So the market should soon be disappointed. And also we know that as the oil barrel quote is nominated in the US dollar, oil has strong connection and correlation with the movement of the US dollar. And the Federal Reserve meeting will also be important for oil price. So if you trade this asset or some commodity currencies like Canadian dollar, Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar, you should closely track the dynamics of oil as well.